Karen,
What?
I did a film race. It was my first one, and it was terrible.
I can help you with that. Calm down. It'll be all right.
Hey, welcome to the Film Race series. I'm Brian.
I'm Karen.
And today we're going to talk about you did a film race, it was your first one, and it was a disaster. Didn't go well. So what's next? We're here to help you. Today we're calling a failed film race something that you either weren't happy with or didn't finish at all or ran out of time or didn't even start. That was a tough one.
And that does happen sometimes. My first advice would be you're not alone, because even the best filmmakers in the world, whether it's a film race or just anything that they've done in their entire repertoire, everybody's first films suck. And I don't mean first film, I mean first films. Like, our first film race we did was not good. Our second film race we did was also not great.
It was unintentionally hilarious, though.
Our third film race we did was more cheeky and fun, but it still wasn't like...
It was still very rough.
And it wasn't really till our fourth and fifth film race that we started to kind of sand those edges down and make it a smoother process and smoother looking film.
Yeah. So really, if you did your first film race and it was a disaster, my question would be, did you have fun? If you didn't have fun and it was a disaster and you don't feel like making movies, that's fine. You can walk away. If you didn't finish, but you still had fun and saw where it could go, definitely dive in again and give it another shot. Because a lot of times it's just that learning the speed of the weekend or the time frame can be it. It's like learning how to be better at like a foot race. You're like, oh, I took way too much time eating food at the aid station. The next time you'll go into it a lot more prepared because you know what's happened already.
What you want to do is identify what was probably the biggest pain point for your weekend, for your film. If it was post-production, then really try and work on how you can make that better. And we've got lots of videos that can help you get better at different points in your different aspects of your filmmaking.
Failure in a film race especially should be encouraging because you're growing and you're going to learn new things. One reason we keep doing certain film races like 72 Fest is a really good meeting of a challenge for us because it's a lot of really good teams and the competition is always very stiff. Use a failure and like those challenges as a chance to grow and to get better and then maybe move on to other things. As you assess whether or not your film was a success or a failure, start looking at what you want out of it. So if what you want out of the film race weekend is to hone your craft, to be a better filmmaker, to have something you can submit somewhere else, then definitely dig into your own writing style, working with the right crew, find the right people, practicing.
You're going to have to accept that your first few movies are not going to be great and that you're probably going to have to do this a bunch of times before you really feel better about achieving those goals.
But then on the other side, if you're just looking for like a fun weekend with friends and you have something to show for it, we have a friend who did a bunch of 48s and we've worked with on several projects outside of 48s and film races who they're very silly movies, self-admittedly very silly. It's a win if they finish, get it turned in, and then make everybody sit through it and then try and answer questions at the end of it.
If your goal is just to have fun, just make sure you're having fun and don't worry so much about trying to win awards or making it perfect, and make sure everyone is having fun on your set. I know the one year at the 72, the one team, it was the jobs year, they picked lawyer, and I don't know if they decided early on or if something came up and they just decided, you know what, we can't actually do much of a film here. The guy just sat there on camera and read all the different kinds of lawyers
Off of like the Wikipedia
and
page.
off of like a Wikipedia page. And I'll tell you, I almost consider that a success because I think that, first of all, everyone in the audience just lost it because it was so ridiculous that it was entertaining to a lot of people. But, and some people hated it, but it was overall, it was just like...
They still
turned something in. And they obviously had fun doing it, I think.
If the goal of film races is to get better at your craft, then I think film races are great because you fail more frequently. And so you don't like invest like, oh, I spent 10 years creating my first short or 5 years. I put all this effort into it. I mean, our first short film, Godfather of Death, we learned less on that one production than we did on 3 or 4 film races, and you get it done a lot quicker. So you learn a bit more about how you want to tell stories. So it's a great incubator for learning what makes you tick as a filmmaker and what stories you want to tell versus really investing all your time into what might be a bad idea or the wrong idea. And regardless if you're trying to hone your craft or just have a fun weekend or do something like avant-garde or just you want to just try filmmaking for the first time, make sure you communicate to your team, like, do you guys want to try and do this with me? So that way people aren't being oversold or undersold on what the weekend's going to be. Give them that like landscape of like, hey guys, we're gonna get a case of beer and write something really silly and then film it and then make people watch it.
Okay, so I'd like to start today by reciting a poem that I have written for Arbor Day.
And you'll get like some people say no thank you or like, oh cool, I got some funny ideas, let's make like a Borat style movie or something really weird. So make sure people know what they're getting into. And that goes I guess for any kind of like film. Like if you're saying we're gonna make a horror, make sure you let people know that you're itching to make a horror film because some people may not want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's communicate clear as kind, as Brene Brown says.
Well, thanks for watching. If you haven't, please consider subscribing and we will see you next time on the Film Race series.